This last month was spent meeting a lot of my growing edges. I got to hold space in a completely new way by holding a women's gathering, a retreat in Costa Rica in a very remote space. I did this alongside my best friend Rachel, and it was incredibly transformative to be able to gather in sisterhood in this way. I'm going to be taking you along with me throughout the week as we tend to the land, tend to each other, and drop in sisterhood, meeting new versions of ourselves and each other. On the first day, we all arrived onto the land. Some of us caught the most beautiful sunset to welcome us onto the space, and then we all cozied up in our shared living space before going to bed to rise early the next morning. I always tend to be the earliest riser in group settings. Whenever the sun is up, I am up. So on this morning, I rose for my morning practice. This helps keep me grounded when I'm out of my normal routine. I then went for a long walk on the beach and caught the sunrise. I really prioritized finding pockets alone with myself because I know how important it is to me to have these to keep me steady and grounded. On my walk, I saw the most beautiful rainbow hidden in the clouds along the horizon. I saw some beautiful macaws, and I found some coconut trees, which I ended up harvesting some of the coconuts to bring back and share with the girls. I felt a lot of nerves going into this container because I was showing up in a new way with girls that already knew me in a way online, and I really had to surrender my thinking mind and drop into my feeling body so much of this trip. Once I headed back from my walk, we all had breakfast and then headed out to the beach together to simulate a turtle survey. One of the biggest aspects of this retreat was volunteering in Costa Rica to help with turtle conservation. So we practiced for our night patrols by digging up the sand and making a little cave to simulate what it would be like to harvest the turtle eggs. We learned how we would safely transport the turtle eggs to a sanctuary to protect them from poachers and other animals such as birds. After this, we were all incredibly hot, so we dove into the freshwater lagoon that was located right next to the retreat land that we were staying on. We swam for hours and just caught up on our lives and shared bits and pieces of our hearts before we found some more coconuts on our walk back. It was so fun because we didn't have a ladder and we didn't have the correct tools, so we found many different ways to get the coconuts down, many of which involved a lot of teamwork. Once we arrived back to the land, we had lunch and then we did a farm tour. It was so incredibly special to see all of the different plants that I use on a regular basis in their natural environments. We saw pineapple plants, bananas, plantains, as well as many new types of spinach and even a really cool plant that is in the cilantro family. We also got to see a ginger shampoo plant, which we were having a lot of fun with smelling and squeezing the gel out of. There was a citronella plant that I used to cover my body with the essential oil from the leaves in order to ward off the many bugs that I ended up getting over 200 bug bites from. There was also a lemongrass bush as well as a lang lang tree, which was so special to see in person because I have been using this essential oil since I was a young girl. They had just planted a cacao tree, which we got to see, and that was also so special because that was one of my biggest wishes to see in Costa Rica. They also had a lot of veggie starts in the greenhouse that we got a tour of, such as peppers and cucumbers, and it was really fun because those were the plants that we would be putting in the beds later during the week. We spent the rest of the day just settling into the land. We saw a lot of different wildlife like different butterflies and moths and monkeys as we were just frolicking around the property. Later in the week, we got to harvest more coconuts from the land and do a really special project with them. We all gathered around whacking coconuts open with a machete to extract the coconut water and the coconut meat. It was so fun and empowering to watch all of us women just gathered around, working with their hands and tending to the lands, receiving their gifts so that we can make a multitude of offerings for ourselves and for each other. The entire process of opening up these coconuts was challenging for many of us, and it really helped us bond with one another and just cheer each other on while we stretched our limits. Once we opened up the coconuts, we headed inside to shave the inside of the coconut meat out. This coconut meat would be blended with the coconut water to make coconut milk, which we were then going to cook into a coconut curry to eat for dinner. Halfway through this process, we all got incredibly hot and sweaty, so Rachel and I returned to the machetes with the coconuts that we had harvested the day before. We spent some time whacking at them and figuring out how to open them with some help from one of the friends that we made on the land, and we ended up getting them open and we shared them with all of the girls to rehydrate after a long morning of using our bodies to harvest and make food. We also got a lesson on how to use ingredients from the land to make soap. We used coconut oil from the coconuts on the land, and we also used a variety of other ingredients that were local to Costa Rica. We ended up building our own soap recipe, and it was really special because each of us got to put in a different ingredient and work together to build the overall collective that would be the soap bar that we would then get to chop up, divvy up, and then take home for ourselves. After this, we all gathered around for a nourishing lunch, and we stopped to look at all of the butterflies before we headed off to a waterfall. This entire experience was one that I will never forget. We first got picked up in a taxi, which ended up being a pickup truck that we rode in the back of up a very steep mountain. Just upon arriving, it started to rain, and then once we made it to the waterfall, it started to thunder and lightning. We ended up skinny dipping together and having a good time anyways, and then on the way back, we just huddled up and prayed for our safety. Once we returned, we were all cold for the first time this entire trip, so we made tea and got some snacks and gathered around to share story and just connect together.
Chronic health issues being a black color is the anthocyanins, which is like one of the most potent antioxidants. So,
oh yeah, I love her. That's my favorite podcast.
And I don't believe that. I believe that we choose our to be a healer, to be a empath, like our descendants. All about your life as a canvas, and like artist, creative accountability, because I don't want to create more, but I also
We ended up pulling some oracle cards from the most beautiful deck that Jade brought, and we did some oracle readings for each other and for the entire group to set our intentions for this trip. Afterwards, it was time for dinner, so we headed to the kitchen and enjoyed the coconut curry made from the coconuts that we had opened and harvested earlier that day. We spent the rest of the night cozied up, braiding each other's hair, reading our cards, and just sharing story. Today is our free day within the retreat, and there's an option for multiple tours that you can go on or different experiences that you can choose to add on to your retreat. There's also obviously the option to slow down, drop in with your body and regroup, and that is what I chose to do. I have been feeling very sensitive, really feeling like I am meeting my growing edges, and they've felt very sharp, and I've just felt very expansive, and I needed some time to journal and connect with myself before I drop back in with the girls this afternoon. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just spending some time filling up my journal pages. It's been a really strange couple of weeks being in a different country, feeling a different rhythm. The sun is setting a little bit earlier here, and my body was not used to that. The air feels very thick and humid, and I'm also not used to that. I'm used to dry and having those oscillations throughout the day. So having the lack of oscillations has left me feeling a little bit outside of my body, and I needed some morning yoga, some morning movement, and some journaling to just process everything that has been happening and really hold everything in duality. I feel like I was really excited for this trip, but there was also a lot of fear to show up in a certain way and to potentially even feel the need to perform in front of girls that know me in a certain way online and maybe don't know me in person. And I know that I show up authentically, but there was also this fear that maybe their perception of me would be different in person than it is online. And I really had to take time to drop back in with myself and realize that there was never any need to perform. There was never any need to be anything other than exactly as I am in this moment, because everybody is always changing and everybody is always growing and everybody is always becoming and unbecoming and learning and unlearning. And last night we had a beautiful circle where we did some oracle readings and we shared our hearts, and there was a lot of tears and a lot of shedding and a lot of just support from other sisters, and it was definitely very needed because I think in the online realm, it's a very beautiful place for connection, but it also leaves a lot of room for disconnection and isolation. And there's this fundamental belief that I hold, and that is any cell in isolation is cancerous. And that is what happens in the human body, but that also happens within society. When we isolate ourselves and we don't connect with other humans, there's disease that happens, especially mental disease, depression, anxiety. Whenever we don't feel connected to ourselves and to the earth and to each other, we feel isolated. And the first step really is to first connect to yourself and to know yourself, but then it is also to connect to the earth and to know the earth and to build relation with the earth, and then to connect to others, especially like-minded people, to feel supported, because we all deserve to feel supported. And yeah, we just had a very beautiful night, and now I'm just processing everything, taking time to myself and feeling into that duality, because this trip is about connection with others, but it's also about deepening presence within myself. And so, yeah, it's just been very beautiful to hold space in this way and to meet my growing edges and to take care of myself and to prove to myself time and time again that I have my back. No matter what happens, no matter where I'm at in the world, I know how to take care of myself. And those are the moments that really push me forward, in the smaller moments in the mundane when anxiety can really take a hold. I remember how much I held myself in the big moments, in those life-changing, life-altering, earth-shattering moments where I really felt like giving up, because before this trip and even on the first day of the retreat, I was really doubting myself and really doubting my ability to be here and to surrender. And that's kind of been the word of the trip with all of us girls. It's just been surrender and trust and allow, because we really can't control everything, and so much of our daily lives we try to control. And so surrendering that control to God and to Source and to even other humans, with God working through them, and the messages and the lessons and the teachings that we need to be receiving in those moments, is very humbling, to say the least. Because honestly, in the day-to-day, I feel like so much of my anxiety is gone, and I know that is because I have so many tools and I know how to support myself. And I had some really challenging panic attacks before this trip, and I haven't had a full-bodied, where it got out of body experience panic attack in honestly like 6 months, which is really good for me as somebody who had them regularly almost every day growing up. And so I was feeling really proud of myself for remembering my tools and remembering how to bring myself back, and then also having grace with myself, because I felt really frustrated at first with a lot of should be's creeping up within my brain of, you should be able to do this. You should be able to go with the flow like everyone else. Why can't you just be more flexible? Why can't you just roll with the punches? Why can't you just drop into this moment like everybody else is? And the more you get to know yourself, the more you understand that these areas, these rough edges, these tender parts of ourselves are really important, because they allow us to come closer to ourselves. They allow us to meet love in a new form, to offer new ideas and new ways that we can support ourselves, new areas that we do need to grow within. And that's not a bad thing. It just shows that we're constantly growing and meeting ourselves. And so that is what I'm reflecting on. I'm feeling really grateful for sisterhood and for connection to myself and to the earth and to my best friend Rachel and to all of these beautiful women that came on this trip with me. I truly am feeling so inspired by every single one of them. Every single one of them has so many gifts that are leaving me feeling overflowed with just love and inspiration, like I said before. And so that's really what I'm reflecting on in my journal, is just how important sisterhood is and moments of slowing down and connecting with each other, because that is really what life is about. This day was one of my favorites because we got to learn about some regenerative farming techniques that they use on the farm. And so we got our hands in the soil, we helped plant some of the starts, we pulled weeds, and we cut down dead plantain leaves to use as mulch to trap in moisture for the plants. We then learned about rice inoculation, which was incredibly fascinating to me. It is a method of encapsulating the bacteria from the forest and bringing it into your soil. As somebody who is so so adamant about bacterial wellness in our guts and in our soil. This was so incredible to learn because I'd never heard of it before. So we ended up putting some rice in a jar. We covered that jar with a mesh covering and we rubber banded it shut. Then we walked it out to the forest where we found a bunch of different trees in different settings to put the different jars. This is a primary forest, meaning that it's all old growth. So all of the bacteria that is going to be inoculating the soil is full of ancient wisdom. This helps make your soil more biodiverse and thus more resilient. The next day, we got a true taste of small town Costa Rican life. We started the day by all going to a national park festival where everyone was celebrating 50 years of this national park being in place. We got to experience a cultural dance, we walked around town and found some fruit markets, we purchased a lot of local jewelry and goods to bring back home, and we also got to display how it is we made soap for all of the kids of the town. Afterwards, a handful of us girls signed up for a cultural farm tour, so we went to the cultural farm riding in the back of our host's car, and upon arrival we started prepping all of the fruits and vegetables for a meal that we would be eating together. We harvested plantains and I got to work peeling them and chopping them up so we could fry them up for our meal. We also chopped up fresh veggies like cucumbers and tomatoes for a salad. We steamed up some yuca, which was my favorite addition to the meal, and the host helped us prep some rice and some beans made with a bunch of different herbs and spices from the land. We also made patacones from the plantains, which are essentially frying and then smashing the plantains and then frying them once more, so they're like a big crunchy fry of sorts. I did not get to enjoy them because they were cooked in soybean oil and I'm allergic to soy, but the rest of the girls said that they were delicious. After we enjoyed our meal together, my favorite part of the trip unfolded. One of my biggest wishes being in Costa Rica was to see a cacao farm. I kind of gave up on that dream because I had tried to find a cacao farm near us and had no luck. After signing up for this cultural farm tour, I had no idea what to expect, but upon arriving, they handed us bags full of soil and also handfuls full of cacao seeds. We got to plant handfuls of cacao seeds that they would then put into the soil weeks later. They also surprised us with our own cacao trees that were about the height of all of us to go and plant in the forest. So we grabbed a shovel and we all headed out to the forest with our trees, where we each took turns digging up a spot of land for us to plant our cacao tree into the earth. This was probably one of the most magical experiences of my life. We got to cheer each other on and hold space for each other while we each tended to the earth, and also implanted a prayer with our trees, which will grow alongside us for the years to come. It felt incredibly special because I have known cacao my whole entire life. We've all grown up eating chocolate, so to get to be in the plant's native environment felt incredibly special. In addition to planting the trees, we also all planted intentions and marked our calendars for 1 year from that day, because in 1 year from now, the trees will be fruiting and hopefully our dreams and intentions will be fruiting too. Afterwards, we went on a medicinal plant walk, which was incredibly special, and also another intention that I had set for Costa Rica, which just felt really serendipitous that it all unfolded in one afternoon.
So that's like mountain grape. If you get lost, you can eat the fruit. This is like bitter cane.
Bitter cane.
And it's very good like for UTIs, for example.
Oh, my mom literally just texted me asking for UTI advice. They taught us all about the different wild plants that they had growing on their large acreage of farmland that they tended, and they also took us to a small stream that was incredibly beautiful, along with a massive tree that we all sat around and prayed together to. When we got back from our walk, we all worked together to harvest some yuca, or cassava, which is another plant that I work with regularly, and it was incredibly special to pull up this plant and find that the roots were actually made up of a ton of taro roots that we could then pull up and act like little kids pulling treasures out of the earth. My friend Jade and I had a lot of fun poking fun at the shapes that the taro made, because one of them made a particularly funny shape. We then returned to the farm that we were staying on and met up with the rest of the girls before eating dinner and gathering around the fire for a full moon song circle.
Okay, George Lopez. Bring back the fever trees.
The next day was our last day together, and some of us went to the national park to explore and go hiking, and then the rest of us stayed around and went hiking on the land. Rachel and I went out to the beach together for sunset before the rest of the girls got back, and we caught the most beautiful ending sunset to close out the trip. Once everyone got back, we had dinner together, and then we had a final night of tending to each other, braiding each other's hair, pulling a final oracle card to close out our time together. We listened to music, did some yoga, and we also made some friendship bracelets, which one of the girls, Kyla, kindly brought to share. Before we left on the day of departure, I wanted some final moments with each of the girls alone, so I went around and asked them a special question to close out our time together. After being here for a week and experiencing all the things that we got to experience and all the transformational moments, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that you were born perfectly, just as you are, that there's nothing that you need to change about yourself, and that your sensitivity is your greatest strength.
I love that.
Hi, my name is Sierra. I'm 27 years old, and the advice I would give to my younger self is to trust your intuition and just overall have more trust in yourself.
Hi, my name is Jade. I'm 28 years old, and if I could go back and tell my younger self, I would tell her that it is okay to take up space, and it's actually really important that you do. That's what's going to heal yourself and everyone else, and just believe in who you are. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kyla. I'm 23, and the advice I'd give to my 16-year-old self or my younger self is not to listen to anyone else's words of discouragement and to fully find yourself on your own, honestly.
Hey, I'm Bara. I'm 24, and the advice I would give my younger self would be listen to your heart and listen to your heart and just be yourself. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Hi, I'm Addie. I'm 22. And the advice I would give to my younger self is more maybe an affirmation. But I would say you're cool. You're cool, and you've always been, and you're gonna get cooler every year and every day.
Hi, my name is Raquel, and I'm 28. And the advice I would give my younger self would be to embrace your weirdness just as it is, because that's what makes you unique and authentic.
Hi, I'm Annie. I'm 26, and my advice to my younger self is that you don't need to earn love. You're already worthy of it.
Hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm 25 years old, and the advice I would give to my younger self is don't let fear overwhelm your tenderness, your childness, and just overall just being yourself.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm 28 years old, and if I could give any advice to my younger self, I would say that don't feel pressure to follow the crowd. There'll be a lot of things happening, and it's not wise to just blindly follow people that may be against your intuition. And I would also say to go outside of your comfort zone. Some of my best experiences of life have been like in other countries where I never thought I would be. And I really think it's a great idea to grab a friend and just leave the country and go see the world on your own and get out there, out of your little town and what you already are familiar with.
Hi, my name is Isabella. I'm 21 years old, and some advice I'd give to my younger self is you don't need to explain yourself to people who just don't want the best for you.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm 23, and if I could tell my younger self anything, I would tell her that it's okay to feel safe in the depth of your emotions and to allow yourself to be held while you're meeting your growing edges, and to go to your growing edges and then travel beyond them because they truly are just the beginning.